Beautiful. But just when I thought I was finished here, it appears I'm not. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 15 of Project LS400. So it's been a while since I last worked on the car. You know how things go with project cars, life and work gets in the way. And in the case of Lexus cars, parts are hard to find and fairly expensive. I'm still looking for a power steering pump, but last week someone got in touch with me. He said he may have a power steering pump for me, so I'm hoping the best for that. Anyway, as I said, I thought I was finished under the hood, but I was looking through some previous episodes, working on my YouTube thing, algorithm and so, and I noticed I forgot something. Let me get the camera and show you what I mean. So I was going through some previous episodes, doing some updates on my YouTube channel, and it occurred to me that I have done a lot of work under the hood and there's a lot of things I still need to test and check. For example, I noticed, I hope it shows on camera, here is the AC pump and it needs a nut. I lost a nut and it's an M10 fine thread nut. It's hard to find. I placed new gaskets on the spark plug tubes. And engine has been running, but I haven't checked if they are seated correctly and if they are leaking or not. And I still have to adjust all the wiring cables here on the throttle body. And I got a few questions on that, so I want to address the adjustments and the settings of the throttle body and all the cables in this episode. And yeah, the power steering pump, so yeah. Well, anyway, let's get started. So I bought my thread gauge. I'm gonna check the stud on the AC pump to see what the specific thread is. It's a bit hard to get in. I got it right the first time. It's 1.25. So here it is. It's the camera will some sort of focus. It's 1.25. So I'm going to look for a bolt or a nut. I mean, there's a store in the neighborhood that sells them, but only by the 100, and I only need one or two, so I can lose another one. So let's try to find that first. Long story short, hardware stores only sell these nuts per 100, and I got hold of them because I got smart. These are flywheel nuts for small scooter engines, those 50cc 4-stroke engines, and they happen to be exactly the same. So otherwise I would have to order 100 of them, have them shipped to my house for 40-50 euros, and these two only cost me 3 euros. So let's get them on. At least let's get one on. So as I said, I've been terribly busy with work lately. I work as an automotive journalist and as a technical editor, and I run my own car test website. If you're interested to see, I can put a link up in the screen. And I was wondering, maybe you think it's interesting to see a video of the cars I'm test driving. Please let me know down below in the comments. I can give it a try with a car test video. I only test drive Japanese and Korean cars. Got a nut on and my small ratchet. Goes to show it's important that you do this before you install the fan and the serpentine belt. But that's good and tight, won't fall off. So that's one simple task completed. That's one thing you don't want to forget. On to the next. So on to the next, and that's the cables and all the stuff around the throttle body. As I said, there is the Jubilee clamp that shouldn't be here, but the old clamp got loose, so I have to look into that. And what it does, it jams the throttle valve. So there's a couple of cables. I believe this is the cruise control. We have the kickdown cable and the throttle cable from the gas pedal in the car. So a little backstory. Recently I was driving a friend's LS400 and he had some problems with the transmission of the car. It shot in the speed range between 70 and 80 kilometers an hour. You can clearly feel the car wasn't driving as it should. There was a slight hesitation, a shudder all the way in that speed range. Below 70 everything's okay, and above 80 everything's okay. He had a transmission flushed and clean, new filter, new gasket, the whole shebang, but they overfilled it, and that's what transmission specialists do. I don't question their capabilities, I'm just stating the fact that they often tend to overfill these transmissions, and then you get the same kind of symptoms. When they're really overfilled, you can feel a loud bang when it shifts from third to fourth or when it goes in lockup. So what you do, you can suck some oil out via the dipstick. That's what my friend did, but he still experienced that hesitation. And in my opinion, it should have been gone. So I got thinking, what can it be? And I concluded, well, maybe it can be the kickdown cable. We didn't look into that because it was dark and I didn't have any time. I had to go home. But that reminded me that I installed all the cables on here, but I never adjusted them. So I want to do that next and show you the exact settings and specifications of this. When I put everything together, I checked the air lines and these parts over here. They were opened by blowing compressed air to them. And mechanically, this is all in order. The only thing I need to do is to adjust those cables. And I may or may not have said it wrong in a previous scene, but this cable over here goes to the cruise control actuator. So this is the cruise control. I may have accidentally called it the traction control cable, but the traction control, there's a secondary throttle valve in here that's normally open in this position. When it's closed, the engine power is limited, and that is operated by this stepper motor here, and it's read by this sensor, and this is the throttle valve position sensor. So what I need to do is to adjust the throttle cable that goes through the gas pedal, and there's not much to adjust here. There is an awful lot of slack, so I can see what I can do here, but I'm pretty certain it's good as it is now. The only thing we need to do, and we have to check, is to set the slack on this cable. And now let me pull it out. You can see the small thingy on here, but this has to protrude just 1 millimeter outside this rubber grommet. So that's the thing you want to check. When this is adjusted correctly, the transmission can read, in air quotes, the position of the throttle valve. You need a 40 millimeter wrench to loosen these nuts. Loosen that one. I'm gonna tighten this one, put my cable back, and I do this just by eyesight and gut feel. So that's about 1 millimeter out. It's just hard to see, and it's also hard to measure, but I think we're good right here. Let me get the camera up close. See if I can make a close-up on this. You can see that. Put my hand behind here. Just ever so slightly protrudes. So now the throttle sensor cable towards the automatic transmission is set correctly. Now over here in the right hand side corner of the engine compartment lives the cruise control actuator, and here is the horn for the car alarm, which I don't think works anymore. Maybe we'll look into that later. I'm gonna clean this up a bit. It's not very greasy and dirty, but it can use a cleanup. Now let's have a peek behind the right hand side headlight where the airbox usually lives. I pulled it out just to have a look at this line here over there. It's a return line to the power steering reservoir, and someone told me, well, look if you have any kink in any line, because you have a kink, it may limit the supply and the flow, and that can explain the cavitation noise you're hearing from your power steering pump. Just have to figure out how I can loosen that clamp over there. And this one over here, that would be fairly simple, but here the brake lines and the air suspension lines are in the way. I'm going to try to take the line out, see if I have a new longer piece of line and just put that in. Well, there it is, folks. It's the old return line out, and I checked it. I can't reproduce it on camera, but it was a kink this much in. It doesn't actually block the flow, but it limits it, well, I would say quite substantially. I'm not sure if this is the cause of the cavitation noise in the power steering pump. It was a struggle to get out. Let me get a pointing device. You can see the line, the metal line underneath there. It's a bit hard to reach because the brake lines are in the way. And here are two air lines from the air suspension. And this is where it connects with the power steering pump. So I got hold of another line of the same dimensions. Yeah, of course. Sorry, my cable in the way. But this is the line, so I'm gonna put this on now and make it a longer loop with a more gentle radius and hope that fixes our problems. Once again, fingers crossed. Let's see if I can struggle this on. Going well. I'll have to take in account that there is an exhaust manifold over here and things can get quite warm. Let me get the camera up here so I can show you. There's the line, and I put it behind this brace. Just cut it off here. Now I have a nice long loop, and that's the clamp over there I need to get on. You can look down there. Pointing device. This is the cover for the exhaust manifold. Right. That's hard to show. But where the tip of my screwdriver rests. That's the exhaust manifold. And I want to keep that a bit away from there. Can put a tie wrap in, but now I got a nice long loop in the power steering return line. Let's cut it about here. But now it's on. Alrighty, just have a peek. There's the line. It's running behind this bracket. The next problem I want to fix, you can see these two air lines coming from the lower end of the power steering pump. Put a little air windscreen. They open up a valve when you have the steering wheel to full lock, and that puts maximum load on the power steering pump, and with that maximum load on the engine. So when that happens, the valve opens and it takes air from here, which is before the throttle valve, and diverts it into the intake plenum so it can breathe a bit more easily, and that actually revs up the engine slightly. But it prevents the engine from stalling or dropping too low in the rev range. Now the problem I have here, there is this connection on here which is broken. It's stuck in this line. So what I'm going to do now is try to pick it out with a screwdriver, then go home and make a new insert with with screw threads, so I can turn that into there and have a firm connection. So I'm in my home workshop and I was going through my small bin of parts and I found this one, and this is the LPG injector that were drilled into the intake runners. I took out in an earlier episode. I put a link up there, and I figured, hey, it's very suitable. It's measurement wise, it's almost identical, albeit a bit smaller. Well folks, for some odd reason the camera quit recording while I was drilling a hole in here, and when I tapped the hole, put a vacuum cleaner in here to make sure that no chips can get into the intake plenum in any direction. And I put it on and used a zip tie. It's not my favorite type of clamp, but the older clamps were a bit too loose, so I had to use a zip tie. Now that's done. One thing I have to do is I have to fill up the power steering fluid with ATF, install the air box and the rest of the intake, clean up a bit in here, and then see if she'll run. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but the car is idling down to its low idle right now. But you can still hear the power steering pump. So apparently the problem wasn't in the kink line I had. It sounds terrible. Engine running great, but so I really have to get hold of a new power steering pump. So what I want to do next is clean the engine bay. I have my compressor at hand. I inflated the tires on the left hand side once again. I clean this up with compressed air and my brush, and then can close the hood until I have a new power steering pump, and then we'll continue working on that. And I also noticed I need to fix this bracket. There are some bolts missing. It's also very rusty, but I'll address that after the winter. And once everything is clean under here, just close the hood, leave it for it what it is, and then maybe clean the outside of the car and wrap up this episode. So now you've seen me clean the car with my air gun. I tried to wipe it with quick detailer, but there was nothing but water in the bottle. I have this detailer wax and this, it's called it's a paint cleaner for light, slightly dirty paints. You can spray it on and wipe it off with a microfiber towel that you shouldn't drop on the floor. Get a clean one for that. But what I'm going to do is just spray it in and wipe it off so it looks clean, and then give it a once over with this detailer wax. It's called Makov Split Second Detailer Wax. Hope it shows. Well, actually, it's starting to shine a bit. Really glad I'm doing this. This is very satisfying. Work with the power steering pump was a bit disappointing. I really had my hopes of that it would make some sort of a difference, but well. Now, let's be honest. At least it has some sheen back on it. The green looks really nice. Yeah, it needs a repaint, I know, and man, I wish the project was finished, and man, I wish I had more space, but be honest, she's a beaut. Well folks, that's all I have for this episode. Unfortunately, The kink line from to the power steering pump didn't solve the cavitation noises it makes, so I have to continue look for a new power steering pump. But anyway, we got things adjusted and we can button things up under the hood. There's a few panels I want to put back in because I don't think I need to be underneath there anywhere. And after the car run, I checked again for leaks and there aren't any, so that's good. At least we got the car clean, got some shine back on it, and there's some sort of glory back in the car, for which I'm very happy. For the next episode, what do I have planned? I'm not sure. There's one thing I really want to do, and that's get the brakes serviced. The problem is I only can access the brakes on the left hand side, so I have to ask the owner of this Toyota Cressida, which you're standing on right now, can move his car out so I can move the car a bit around here in my workshop, and also service the brakes on that side of the car. Also, I want to check the air compressor and the air dryer system that's in there, but that's something for a future episode. So this was a short episode and got not much done, but anyway, it is what it is. I hope you liked following me along, and if you did, give me a like, leave a comment if you have any questions. I try to address your questions in the next episode. Anyway, thanks for following along and thanks for watching. See you on the next one.